In a green forest, extending with thick shadows and tall trees hugging the sky, there lived a little rabbit named Nono. Nono was distinguished by his soft white fur and bright eyes, which reflected the spirit of adventure and courage. Nono lived in a small, warm burrow under a huge oak tree. The burrow was surrounded by colorful wildflowers that filled the air with their fragrant perfume. From a young age, Nono was an adventurer by nature. He wasn't afraid to explore new places and wander around the different parts of the forest. He loved playing with his friends, Sammy the squirrel and Toto the bird. They formed an inseparable trio, spending their time climbing tall trees, running through fields, and searching for delicious foods like fresh carrots and cranberries. One sunny day, Nono woke up early to the sound of birds chirping filling the sky. He decided to make this day special and go on a new adventure. After eating his breakfast of fresh carrots and lettuce, he set out toward the large river that cut through the forest. The trees along the road were whispering with the sounds of the wind, and the sun's rays filtered through the branches to illuminate the path in front of him. When Nono reached the river, he was overjoyed. The river was sparkling in the sun, the water running fast and forming small eddies between the rocks. Nono sat on the river bank and started playing with the water, jumping from one stone to another, looking for small fish swimming between the rocks. While he was enjoying himself, Nono noticed a strange movement among the nearby trees. Suddenly, a cunning fox named Fluff came out of the trees. Fluff had bright orange fur and golden eyes that exuded intelligence and resourcefulness. Fluff walked up to Nono with a friendly smile and said, "Hey, little rabbit, what are you doing here alone?" Nono felt a little suspicious, but he answered confidently, "I'm here to enjoy my time by the river. And you, what are you doing here?" Fluff smiled slyly and said, "I'm here to look for food. Maybe we can work together and find something delicious to eat." Nono knew that foxes were often cunning, but his curiosity made him decide to stay cautious and listen to what Fluff had to say. While they were walking together by the river, Fluff tried to convince Nono that he knew a secret place that had a lot of delicious food. Fluff was talking excitedly, trying to lure Nono to a secluded place. But Nono, with his intelligence and courage, was able to read Fluff's cunning intentions. When they arrived at a secluded place, Fluff tried to attack Nono to take his food, but Nono was prepared. He jumped quickly and lightly and shouted an alert to his friends who were nearby. Sammy and Toto heard Nono scream and came running to save him. The three friends bravely confront Fluff, causing him to get scared and run away into the forest. After this situation, Nono and his friends learned an important lesson: to always be careful and not easily trust strangers. They returned home feeling proud and brave, ready for a new adventure another day. This day was the beginning of the adventures of the brave Nono in the forest, where he learned many lessons and gained many friends. After his previous adventures by the river, Nono returned home loaded with stories and experiences that he shared with his friends and family. Everyone was proud of his courage and intelligence. However, the spirit of adventure was still burning inside Nono, and he was not satisfied with what he had experienced so far. One fine day, Nono decided to explore another part of the forest that he had never visited before. He woke up early as usual, ate his breakfast of carrots and lettuce, and set off on his new journey. The forest in this part was denser, and the trees were larger and older. The birds were singing their beautiful melodies, and the butterflies were dancing in the air with their bright colors. As Nono walked through this mysterious part of the forest, he felt a little nervous, but he was not afraid. He knew that any adventure carried some risks, and he was ready to face them. After walking for a while, he came to an area filled with dense bushes and tall grasses. This area was completely new to him, and he had no idea what he would encounter here. Suddenly, he heard a voice behind him. He quickly turned around to see an orange-furred fox standing a few steps away from him. This fox was Fluff, who tried to trick him last time. But this time, Fluff seemed more meek and less threatening. Fluff walked up to Nono with an apologetic smile and said, "Hello, little rabbit. I'd like to apologize to you for what happened last time. I wasn't honest, and I promise I won't try to deceive you again." Nono was surprised by this change in Fluff's behavior, but decided to remain cautious. Nono replied, "Thank you for your apology, Fluff. But you should know that trust is not something that can be easily regained." Fluff smiled and said, "I completely understand. That's why I want to give you something as proof of my sincerity. There is a secret place in the forest that contains rare herbs and delicious fruits. I would like to show you this place if you wish." Nono hesitated a little, but he was naturally curious and couldn't resist the temptation to explore a new place. He decided to give Fluff another chance, but he was prepared for any emergency. The two of them set off together through the forest, where the trees were getting thicker and the shadows were getting deeper. Nono was watching every movement and every sound, ready to act if necessary. As they walked, Fluff started talking about his life and the difficulties he faced as a predator in the forest. He talked about how food became scarce and he had to find new ways to survive. Nono felt some sympathy for Fluff, but he did not forget his previous experiences with him. After walking for a while, they came to an open area full of aromatic herbs and wild fruits. The smell was delicious, and the view was amazing. "This is the place I was talking about," Fluff said. "Here, eat whatever you want." Nono began to enjoy eating the fresh fruits and delicious herbs, but he was watching Fluff out of the corner of his eye. Suddenly, Nono felt something strange. He noticed that Fluff was looking in one direction nervously. Nono quickly turned to see a group of predators approaching the place. Nono realized that Fluff might have deceived him again, but he had no time to think. Nono quickly jumped up and prepared to defend himself, but was surprised when he saw Fluff standing next to him, facing the predators. Fluff said, "This is my chance to prove to you that I have changed. I will protect you from these animals." Thanks to Fluff's courage, the two were able to escape from the dangerous situation. After they were in a safe place, Nono said, "I think you have proven your truth, Fluff. Thank you for your help." Fluff smiled and said, "No thanks are due, Nono. We all need a second chance to prove that we are worthy of trust." After his adventure with Fluff, Nono returns to his burrow, feeling good about himself and the lesson he learned about trust and tolerance. But the adventurous spirit within Nono did not subside. He was always looking for something new to discover and a new experience to have. One day, while he was walking in the forest, Nono heard some animals talking about a hidden treasure in the forest. Conversations were heard here and there, and each animal told a different story about this treasure. Some say it is a chest full of jewels and gold. Others say it contains magic books and ancient secrets. No matter what the treasure was, Nono was eager to search for it. He decided to start his journey the next day, after gathering everything he needed for this adventure. The next morning, Nono woke up early as usual. He packed his small bag, putting some food and water in it, as well as an old map he had found in the forest library. The map had mysterious signs and complicated paths, but Nono was determined to decipher it and find the treasure. Nono began his journey towards the east, where the map indicates the beginning of the path. The forest was gradually changing. The trees were getting bigger and older, and the shadows were getting deeper. Nono walked carefully, using his map to guide him. After walking for a while, he came to a crossroads. The map was pointing in the right direction, but the road looked dark and scary. Nono decided to follow the map and continue walking cautiously. As he walked down the dark path, Nono felt a little anxious. The wind was blowing through the trees, and leaves were falling around him. But Nono was not going to back down. He knew that adventure required courage and determination. After walking for a while, he came to a small, calmly flowing river. He had to cross this river to get to the other side, where the map indicated an important marker. Nono searched for a way to cross the river and found an old wooden bridge that seemed to have not been used for years. The bridge was eroded and made suspicious noises with every step. Nono stepped forward carefully, trying to distribute his weight evenly to avoid the bridge collapsing. After successfully crossing the bridge, Nono felt relieved and continued on his way. Nono arrived at an area full of large rocks and small caves. The map indicated that there was a mark engraved on one of the rocks. Nono began searching among the rocks and eventually found a large rock bearing a mysterious inscription. The sign said, "The treasure hunt begins here. Follow the stars to find what's hidden." Nono looked at the sky and saw that the sun was starting to set and the stars were slowly starting to appear. He decided to follow the inscription's advice and wait until the stars in the sky were full. Nono sat next to the rock, enjoying the peace and quiet that surrounded him. While he waited, Nono remembered all the adventures he had and the friends he met on his journey. He felt grateful for every experience and every lesson he learned. As the sky darkened and the stars became clearly visible, Nono noticed a certain pattern among the stars. It was an arrow pointing in a certain direction. Nono decided to follow this arrow and continue his journey. He started walking toward the stars, past rocks and ancient trees. After walking for a while, he reached a deep valley. The valley was dark and scary, but Nono was determined to continue searching. Nono descended into the valley carefully, climbing over large boulders and avoiding deep chasms. When he reached the bottom of the valley, he found a small dark cave. The map indicated that the treasure was located inside this cave. Nono advanced slowly into the cave, using a small lamp he was carrying in his bag. Inside the cave, the walls were covered with ancient carvings and drawings dating back a long time. It was cold and wet, and the sound of dripping water echoed all around. After walking for several minutes inside the cave, Nono arrived at a large room. In the middle of the room, there was an old wooden box. Nono felt excited and curious, and approached the box cautiously. When Nono opened the box, he did not find gold and jewels as some expected, nor magic books as was said. Rather, he found a collection of old books and manuscripts containing stories, tales, and legends about the forest and the animals that live in it. These books contained invaluable wisdom and knowledge. Nono realized that the true treasure is not in material things, but in the knowledge and wisdom he can gain. He decided to take some books with him and return to his friends to share these stories and tales with them. He knew that this knowledge could help them in their future adventures and teach them valuable lessons. Nono returned to his burrow, laden with books and stories, feeling happy and grateful for this unique experience. Share the stories with Sammy and Toto, and they all realized that knowledge is the greatest treasure they can have. After discovering the rich treasure of knowledge and stories, Nono returned to his hole feeling satisfied and happy. He had a lot to share with his friends Sammy and Toto. The three would gather every night around a small fire to read old books and enjoy tales full of wisdom and knowledge. But Nono knew that his adventures were not over yet, and that the forest still hid many secrets and surprises. One day, Nono decided to explore another part of the forest that he had never visited before. This part was known to be home to rare animals and mysterious creatures. Nono woke up early as usual, had breakfast, and then set off on his new journey. It was sunny, and the wind was blowing gently, which made Nono feel excited and optimistic. While he was walking through the forest, Nono heard a strange sound coming from afar. Armed with his courage and curiosity, he decided to follow the sound cautiously. After walking for a while, he reached an area filled with tall trees and dense grasses. The sound was getting clearer, and as Nono got closer, he saw a small animal stuck in an old fishing net. The animal was a small mouse named Mimi. Mimi was crying and asking for help, but Funo did not hesitate for a moment. He carefully began to untie the net to free Mimi. After a few minutes of effort, Nono was able to free Mimi, who thanked him warmly and said, "Thank you very much, Nono. You saved my life. My name is Mimi, and I have been living in this forest for a long time." Nono was happy to help Mimi and asked, "What were you doing here alone, Mimi?" Mimi replied, "I was looking for my friends who I lost a few days ago. We were playing in the forest and suddenly we got separated from each other. Since then, I have been trying to find them." Nono felt sympathy for Mimi and decided to help him find his friends. He said, "Don't worry, Mimi. I'll help you find your friends. Let's start searching together." Nono and Mimi set out on their journey to search for Mimi's friends. As they walked, they exchanged stories and anecdotes about their adventures and experiences in the forest. Mimi was small in size, but smart and brave, and he had many interesting stories to share with Nono. After walking for a while, they reached an area full of fruit trees and beautiful flowers. There, they heard a faint sound coming from between the trees. They approached cautiously and found a little squirrel named Lulu stuck in a narrow hole. Nono and Mimi start thinking about how to save Lulu. Nono decided to use some branches and leaves to create a small bridge that Lulu could use to get out of the hole. After a few attempts, Lulu managed to get out of the hole and thanked Nono and Mimi warmly. Lulu said, "You were amazing. Thank you for saving me. I was playing with my friends, and suddenly I fell into this hole." Lulu joined Nono and Mimi on their journey, and they continued searching for Mimi's other friends. As they walked, they met many other animals and made many new friends. They cooperated together in searching for Mimi's friends and faced challenges with courage and determination. One day, while they were walking through a dense forest, they heard a voice coming from afar. The sound sounded like a distress call. They carefully followed the sound and found a little rabbit named Layla stuck in a thorn net. Nono and his friends carefully began to untie the net to free Layla. After a few minutes of effort, they were able to free her. Layla thanked Nono and his friends and said, "Thank you all. You saved my life. I was playing with my friends and suddenly I found myself stuck in this network." Layla decides to join Nono and his friends in searching for Mimi's other friends. They were a cooperative and adventurous team. They were exchanging stories and anecdotes and enjoying their time together. After days of searching and adventures, they finally managed to find Mimi's other friends. It was a moment full of joy and happiness as they all gathered and held a small celebration to celebrate their return. Nono and his friends realized that friendship and cooperation are the greatest treasures anyone can find. They were happy and grateful for this wonderful experience, and they knew that their adventures were not over yet. After Nono and his friends succeeded in finding Mimi's friends and bringing unity back to the group, everyone was thrilled. They would spend their days playing and exploring, enjoying their time together. However, the forest was hiding a lot of dangers and challenges that they did not expect. One day, Nono and his friends decided to go on a trip to the deepest and most mysterious part of the forest. They knew that this part contained many secrets and strange creatures. They prepared well, collected food, water, and necessary tools, and set off on their journey. As they walked into the forest, the trees began to become denser and the shadows deeper. Mysterious sounds filled the air, and everyone felt a bit nervous and excited. But they were confident of their courage and cooperation. After walking for a while, they came to a deep river flowing very quickly. They had to cross the river to get to the other side, where their map indicated there was something important. They looked for a bridge, but found nothing but an old, rickety tree trunk extending across the river. They decided to use this trunk to cross, but they knew it would be risky. Nono moved first, moving carefully and concentrating on his steps. The trunk was shaking under his weight, but Nono was steady and brave. Next came Sammy, then Toto, then Mimi, and finally Layla. When they all crossed the river successfully, they felt relieved and proud of themselves. They continued their journey, but little did they know that the greatest danger still awaited them. As they walked through the forest, they noticed that it was starting to get colder, and the fog was getting thicker. They knew that this part of the forest was known for the presence of predatory animals and ancient ghosts. Suddenly, they heard the sound of heavy footsteps approaching them. They began to feel danger and felt the ground with their feet. As the sound got closer, they saw a large bear named Bruno emerge from the trees. Bruno was known in the jungle as a powerful and fearsome animal. Nono and his friends stopped and tried to think of a plan to deal with Bruno. "We have to be calm and not make him angry," Nono said. "Maybe we can talk to him and convince him that we are not enemies." Nono approached Bruno cautiously and said, "Hello, Bruno. We are here on an exploration trip, and we don't want any trouble. Can we talk?" Bruno looked at Nono and his friends with sharp eyes, then said in a deep voice, "What are you doing in my area? I don't like intruders." Nono felt a little afraid, but he controlled himself and said, "We are here to seek knowledge and explore the forest. We do not want any trouble with you. If you allow us, we will continue our journey without causing you any inconvenience." Bruno smiled a little and said, "Okay, I will let you pass, but on one condition. You must prove your courage and cooperation in a challenge that I will put before you." Nono and his friends were worried, but they decided to accept the challenge. Nono said, "We are ready for the challenge. What is it?" Bruno replied, There is an ancient cave deep in the forest that contains a hidden treasure, but the cave is full of obstacles and dangers. If you can reach the treasure and bring it to me, I will allow you to pass safely." Nono and his friends decided to accept the challenge and set off towards the cave. The journey was full of dangers. They encountered deep holes, fallen rocks, and broken trees. But they were cooperating together and exchanging ideas to solve every problem they faced. When they reached the entrance of the cave, they felt a sense of awe. The cave was dark and cold, and the sounds of the wind echoed inside like ghost voices. But Nuno and his friends did not back down. They entered the cave cautiously, using a small lamp that Nono was carrying. Inside the cave, the walls were covered with ancient carvings and drawings dating back a long time. The floor was slippery and bumpy, and they moved slowly to avoid falling. After walking for a while, they came to a large room filled with large rocks. In the middle of the room, there was an old wooden box. They felt excited and moved towards the box. When they opened the box, they found inside it a collection of shining jewels and gold. They knew that this was the treasure Bruno talked about. They decided to take some jewels and gold and return to Bruno. When they came out of the cave, they felt proud and accomplished. They returned to Bruno and gave him the jewels and gold. Bruno said with a smile, "You have proven your courage and cooperation. You can pass in peace." Nuno and his friends thanked Bruno for the opportunity and continued their journey. They knew that this experience had strengthened their friendship and cooperation, and that they had become stronger and braver. After their exciting adventure with Bruno the bear, Nono and his friends returned to their burrow, feeling accomplished and happy. They had so many stories to tell, and so many lessons to learn. But Nono knew that there was a final adventure waiting for him, an adventure that would combine all the courage, wisdom, and cooperation he had learned. One day, while they were sitting around the fire and enjoying reading one of the old books that Nono had found in the previous treasure, they noticed a small map hidden between the pages of the book. The map pointed to a remote place in the forest that no one had ever visited before. The map was titled "Lost Treasure." Nono and his friends felt excited and excited. They decided that this would be their last and greatest adventure. They prepared well, collected all the food, water, and tools they needed, and set off on their journey toward the lost treasure. The journey was long and arduous. They were walking through the dense forest, climbing mountains, and crossing rivers. They faced many obstacles and dangers, but they always worked together and used their wisdom and courage to overcome every challenge. After days of walking, they reached a strange area that they had never seen before. The trees here were huge and ancient, and the ground was covered in a thick layer of moss and wildflowers. The atmosphere here was different, calmer and more peaceful, as if they had entered another world. While they were walking through this strange place, they noticed an old path covered in weeds. They decided to follow this path, and with every step, they felt they were getting closer to something great. After walking for a while, they reached a huge stone gate covered in ancient carvings. The inscriptions told an ancient story about the guardians of a lost treasure, a group of wise men who hid the treasure to protect knowledge and wisdom from falling into the wrong hands. Nono and his friends had to decipher these inscriptions to enter the place where the treasure was hidden. They began carefully examining the inscriptions, trying to decipher them. The language used in the inscriptions was obscure and complex, but thanks to the ancient books they read, they were able to understand some of the words and symbols. After hours of hard work, they were finally able to crack the code. When they solved the puzzle, the stone gate slowly opened, revealing a long, dark corridor leading into the mountain. They felt a little intimidated, but they were determined to move forward. They entered the corridor carefully, using their flashlights to light the way. As they walked into the corridor, they noticed murals on the walls that told stories of wisdom, courage, and cooperation. These stories reflected much of what they experienced on their adventures. They felt like they were learning a new lesson with every step. When they reached the end of the corridor, they found themselves in a large room lit by natural light coming from cracks in the ceiling. In the center of the room, there was a large wooden box surrounded by stone statues of sages. Nono slowly approached the box and carefully opened its lid. Inside the box, they find a collection of ancient books and scrolls that contain priceless wisdom and knowledge. These books contained forest secrets, stories of sages, and teachings about friendship, cooperation, and courage. They realized that this was the real treasure, not gold or jewels, but knowledge and wisdom. Nono and his friends were happy and grateful for this unique experience. They decided to take some books and scrolls with them to share with the rest of the animals in the forest. They knew that this knowledge could help everyone improve their lives and learn valuable lessons. When they returned to their burrow, they held a big celebration to mark their discovery of the lost treasure. They invited all the animals in the forest and shared the stories and tales they found. Everyone felt happy and proud of this wonderful adventure. Nono and his friends realized that the adventure wasn't just about searching for treasure. It was about learning, growing, and gaining wisdom. They knew that there were more adventures waiting for them in the future, but they were prepared to face them with courage and wisdom. Thus, the adventure of the brave Nono and his friends ended, but their story will remain engraved in the memory of the forest, serving as an inspiration for all animals that come after them. This was the final chapter of their great adventure, beginning a new chapter full of challenges and discoveries.